more people like you do need to be in office.
Yeah, the mustache fool you. Made it through a whole pandemic. Was never late for rent. My landlord is very proud of me.
You moved from that one joint you were in, right?
Yeah, I did. I lost the house to house flippers.
Oh.
Which, not as much fun as the television show Flipper. But lots of squealing anyway. Yeah, so I'm over here. You remember the Gray Eagle? You probably played the Gray Eagle. And I'm like 4 houses away from the Gray Eagle, which is pretty cool. I can just like roll downhill and go to a show.
Yeah, that's not too bad at all. I imagine that you actually probably have to find yourself being like, oh, fuck, I can't go to this one tonight because I need to go to this other one. And if I go tonight, or if you're gigging.
Yeah. But I'm not gigging as much as I'd like to. One of my favorite clubs is not having music right now, and so that was my number one spot. And so I don't have as much work as I'd like. But I'm playing Jack of the Wood Saturday.
Oh, you're playing Jack of the Wood? That's a good room. Is the Crow and Quill still doing music?
Crow and Quill. That's the one they had to can their music program for the time being until the fire marshal chills the hell out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Let me guess, it just got a little too popular?
Well, our last gig there was the Saturday of Labor Day weekend, May Day equivalent for all your European friends. That Saturday I went outside for a smoke break in between sets, and there was 50 people in line to get in that were waiting, and that was awesome, but attracted some attention. The whole block actually got hit by the fire marshal, which is a bummer because that block has all the coolest stuff going on in it, and it's where I hang out even when I'm not gigging, and so yeah, that's been a little bummer for the local music scene because those were all local forward shots. They would actually do crazy things, and so we would literally make 3 to 4 times as much money.
You seem to be having connection problems, but that's okay. I know that, man, I've had the pleasure of getting to play with you a few times, and you're easily one of the best stride piano players I've ever met in your life. Like in my life, sorry. I was just actually thinking about your hand and watching it, and I kind of got a little distracted because I'll never forget just watching up close, like just how fucking good you were. How long have you been playing?
I've been playing since I was 10. Though I didn't really start playing the stride style until my sort of early 20s. And Reese Gray was my mentor for that. And he's still a good friend to this day. He's living in Pennsylvania these days and not playing music at all.
Yeah, Reese Gray. I love his playing, especially, the most stuff that I'm mostly familiar with is the Spankers, obviously. And I know that you did work with the Zippers, didn't you?
No, not me. I've opened for them a few times, which was really fun. But Henry, my buddy Henry, a.k.a. Hank West, he went from Firecracker Jazz Band to the Zippers and still plays with them. I'm going to go see them play on February 3rd, which I'm excited about.
I know you said you haven't been gigging out much recently. That's probably not only due to COVID doing the thing that it did, but also you took a foray into politics, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Most of last year was pretty occupied with running for office, and I didn't win, but it's always about the friends you meet along the way.
What made you decide to do that, man?
Well, I see a severe lack of people who are just working through life in whatever way, whether as a musician or in the working classes rarely get a chance to enter politics, and I had a chance to do so, and I had shown, I think, some ability for it and some promise, and I was encouraged by some people who said, wow, you should really think about this. And I did, and I went for it. I won through the primary, and I lost in the general. But I don't think they've seen the last of me. I consistently was, I was not hearing from other politicians. There seemed to be very little talk about what it was like to be a working class member of the city of Asheville and what the future was going to be like for people who work here. And this place doesn't really run very well with nobody shows up at work and no one can afford to live here. And so I was really bringing a working class focus to my campaign. And I did pretty well with that. The unfortunate part is that a lot of the members of the working class who used to live in the city of Asheville no longer live in the city limits. So they were able to volunteer on my campaign, but they weren't able to vote in the election with my name on the ballot. And the data from this area really shows that, more and more people that work in Asheville don't live in Asheville anymore. And that's bad for a lot of reasons, not just for those people who are working. It's actually bad for the whole city and for climate change and for a ton of different things. And, in both political parties here have really lost their focus for decades, for my entire life and then some, on the conditions of working class Americans. And it's really, so I was trying to do what I could with, what was within my grasp here in my community. And I hope that other people do the same.
Well, when I found out that you was actually going into politics, I got really excited because when somebody actually comes from a background of just being, like you said, regular, just working class Americans, they understand the needs that politicians need to deliver on, that they always promise on, that everybody wants them to deliver on, but that they never do. But with you actually coming from the kind of background where, you've been waiting for those politicians' promises to come through, you literally was like, well, maybe I can do something about it. And I really dig that.
Yeah. Yeah, your experience, I think, as a politician really makes a big difference. If you asked me to craft the tax cut that would benefit a billionaire, my life experience has not prepared me for that. But if you asked me to craft a proposal that would help people stay in their homes that were at risk of being evicted on a short-term basis, I could do that. My life experience prepares me for that. And I think the world needs more people who know how to do that than craft tax cuts for billionaires. Also, I'm in school for economics, and so one of the things that I was trying to do is bring the sort of 30,000-foot view along with the real view from trenches of what it's like to work here. And that's something that a lot of other people, I think it's missing in politics. So I was really trying to fill a missing voice as I heard it. But they don't roll out the welcome mat for people who are going to say, hey, what about everybody else? What about the renters? What about the people who work in the kitchen? What about the teachers, or even when you look at working class members of the government, like everywhere from fire department to sanitation to all these places, their pay and working conditions aren't near what they should be to be able to live, thrive in Asheville. And it's a generational and a national problem. But I wanted to work on it in my community, and I hope that people want to do the same thing in theirs.
Just the idea that, like you said, they don't roll the welcome mat out for everybody that wants to stick up for the little guy, because, the fact that, like you said, you couldn't craft a tax cut for billionaires, but you know what basic kitchen table issues are. And I think there's so many politicians that probably start off that way, but then the temptation of the big money comes, or if they want to really be successful in their campaign, they're going to have to take donations from, maybe somebody that might go against their ethics. And the fact that I knew you were getting into politics gave me kind of a sigh of relief, because I know you're just somebody of integrity, and more people like you do need to be in office.
Yeah, let the mustache fool you. I know, it's like I'm the Monopoly guy from here down. I promise my heart's in the right place.
It's like Daniel Plainview's good twin.
My favorite movie, There Will Be Blood. My favorite movie. In fact, I just designed a poster for Firecracker, and I was trying to get some inspiration. What should I put on this poster? And I put There Will Be Jazz.
Jazz with two S's.
Here's a fun fact, and you might know this, but the famous bowling alley scene in There Will Be Blood.
Yeah. I'm finished.
Yeah. Filmed at the Biltmore Estate.
Yeah.
I'm glad you know that. There's been a lot of movies filmed at the Biltmore Estate. That, however, is the best one. Probably the worst one is the one that's coming out soon, the one that I'm in. I filmed I had a bit part in a movie at the Biltmore Estate last week. It's a Hallmark Christmas movie.
Fantastic.
And you already know the plot.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they some weary stranger comes into town, and some love lost person just happens to find them on a rustic cold evening, saves person A from situation B. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, though there's a touch of Back to the Future in this one, because there's a magical hourglass that the urban young woman touches, and she's transferred back to 1947, and that's where I was cast, 1947. So. Oh,
fantastic! Yeah, they did Hannibal at the Biltmore too, didn't they?
Not sure about that. That's new to me.
Yeah, the where they're showing Mason Verger. That's the Biltmore.
Oh.
We were supposed to gig there on. I think it was shortly. Actually, I think it was on the same tour that right when Corona got, just cut everybody's schedule out. I think we were actually scheduled to play the Biltmore.
Antler Hill Village. Does that sound familiar?
I talked to the booking agent. I don't remember these things anymore. Right. It's been so long, and I live in a different country now, so I've experienced it.
That makes you one of my favorite expats.
Oh well, thank you. I'm glad to hold that honor.
Right. What part of Germany are you in?
I'm in the Saarland region. I'm on the border of France and Luxembourg.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we get all that good cooking.
Well, very cool. I always wanted to visit Germany.
I guess you're going to have to visit. We're going to have to play some music.
Yeah, please find me a piano.
Oh, that shouldn't be tricky. I can find a clavier.
Nice Bosendorf.
No big deal. So aside from Firecracker, what else have you been doing?
So I got a little jazz trio that's kind of a side project from Firecracker called the Roaring Ends, and we do all the sort of ballady and weird stuff that my trumpet player wants to do in Firecracker, but I won't let him. So I'm like, okay, all right, you want to do the theme song from Narcos? Okay, you can't do that in our traditional jazz band, but we'll do that in our trio. That sounds fun.
Yeah. there's something about taking people who have the ability, the actual skill set to play traditional jazz, and then giving them the option to do something else, because it's like you don't know where it's going to go because everybody has different influences, but we all have the capability.
Right. And and I do love like trying to keep the idea of Firecracker really sort of nice and tight, like and not try too far out of like what we're doing. And as musicians, of course, we all have like broader tastes than a particular genre typically. And so it's nice to be able to have another project where I can do something. I can do something weird that I want to do.
Yeah.
Like we can do like I like to sort of take some classical pieces and classical themes. Really, I wouldn't call it an entire piece because I don't play the entire thing. But I want the melody and the harmony, and I want to be able to improvise on it. And I'm probably not that with my traditional jazz band, but I will do it with my trio. That does like we'll do like a Sunday night show. It's more what I call parlor jazz. It's like you're sitting in a parlor. You're enjoying a concert by some of your friends on a Sunday evening and having a cocktail. It's not a dance party. It's not a no one's throwing up. It's
supper time volume.
It's not rock. Yeah, it's not rock and roll. It is just it's just trying to make it beautiful for people that are sitting down and listening. And so I always need to make that side of my music happen too. And so it's nice to have a little band I can do that with.
Yeah,
and I haven't had as much solo work lately. I really didn't invest in my career that much last year because I was doing politics, and it was like a year-long process. But this year is definitely looking better, and I'm hoping to be able to do a lot more. And also, I feel like things are still slowly opening up after COVID.
Yeah.
And that there was I said this at the beginning of COVID. I got interviewed by the because I give good quote, and they asked me the future of the music industry, and I said, hey, this was in April, May of 2020, and I said, hey, we were the first to get hit. We're going to be the last to come back, and that's been true. There's a lot going on and a lot bounced back, but we're not where we were here in Asheville in 2019 for sure.
Yeah, I know that. Good God, how many venues? Just even looking on like Indie on the Move, how many venues closed? That's one of the hardest things about gigging now is where can you play? And then if there's anywhere that's open, usually the first thing they're going to take is marquee value acts. And if you're going to get the chance to even open for one of those acts, you're not going to get paid.
Yeah, that's not worth it. And you spend a lot more time as a touring musician than I ever have. I've only done a little bit of that. So I'm primarily focused on being a local musician and musician as playing music as a service and music as entertainment in places that want entertainment rather than the name recognition of a certain band.
Right.
And so really different forces at play there as far as touring and being local. There's all these different things that affect that. And in Asheville, we lost some medium-sized venues. We lost some small venues, but the big venues were fine.
Yeah,
they got big federal help. For instance, one of the big programs that came through very late in the pandemic, but it did through last year. It helped venues, but one of the things that they needed was the venue had to have a light rig. So, just think of all the places you've played without a light rig.
Yeah.
Those places weren't able to get federal help to keep the lights on. They didn't even have it in the future. So, and a lot of the smaller venues that double as other things, they're a wine bar and they do music. They're a record store and they do music. They stopped the music portion of their business. And just carry on like that. And so that stuff has been late to come back, but it's getting better and better. I will say that. I've got hope.
is the busking situation like kind of cracked down on because of that?
No, busking. Thankfully, after that was one of the things that I worked on in 2014. It's how I got into local politics. Actually,
exactly. That's really the thing that caught my attention.
Yeah, the city government wanted to crack down on busking, and I helped organize all the street musicians and street performers, and we fought back and we won. And they haven't messed with this since. I'm pretty retired as a busker now, and but now it's like I think busking is really important as one of the pillars of and pipelines into the music business.
Yeah.
And it's not. There's so much you can learn on your own and get paid while you do it. From busking, it's really, really crucial. And now the biggest threat to busking, locally, because I get asked this a lot by people who, associate me with all busking questions and answers, is that just affordable housing issue. Is a lot of the places that the great buskers would stay, walk into town, to do, like, they're all like short Airbnbs and short-term rentals now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've said this before, buskers are really interesting because they're sort of like, if you've got a busking scene in your city, and especially like a small city like this, like, it means so many other things are like going right. It means that you've got great foot traffic downtown. It means that you've got the talent, in the area to do it. It means that you've got permissive, understanding instructors that can allow it to happen, and don't try to regulate it into either sterility or just straight out of business.
Yeah.
We had a lot of those things, but it's really just the economics of the situation is getting harder and harder for music makers, creators of any type. It's just more and more of a challenge to be able to pay the cost of admittance into Asheville for to be local. And so that's in my long-term view, that's what I see as the biggest danger, and it motivated my campaign. I know that when I moved here in 2007 to Asheville, that I was able to make it for a few reasons. I was able to find rent I could afford. I was able to, I had a network of people that were supportive, and I was able to find work that paid my rent.
Yeah.
If I take myself now and let's say I take 25-year-old Andrew and I put him into 2023 and I make him take his resources and look at whether to move to Asheville and whether it's possible, I think the answer is no.
Yeah, I understand.
And that's that frightens me. I want the next generation of me to be able to make it here. And I don't think that's getting less and less possible. And, that disturbs me. And, a lot of places in America can say the same thing right now. But those problems are really amplified and focused in Asheville because of a lot of particular things that I could spend many hours talking to you about. But it is, can cool people afford to live cool places and make cool things happen? I'm not sure the answer to that is yes in Asheville or a lot of other places in the States now.
Everywhere that I can think of that was any kind of musical mecca, let's take Austin, for example, we all know what happened with that. It seems like there's small places popping up with really cool scenes that you would never expect. Like Kansas City, Missouri is a really good example. They got something really good happening there. And it's very, 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 very roots based, not as in roots music, but also with roots music, but very homegrown sort of grassroots scene where there's just a lot of respect and participation, I suppose is the best way to put it. I had a great time there.
I've never been there. I'd like to go. What about you? You've been playing in. You get to gig much in Germany, or you got a work permit?
I honestly haven't been playing much music because I've been in German class every day. I'm in school from 1 to 5, and I have homework every night as well, and also, tests to study for. So that's what I've been spending a lot of my time doing, that, and creating internet content, chatting with good folk like yourself, and working on the audio book, and working on new tunes for when I want to put a new record together. But right now, I'm not really focused on trying to get out and gig. Right now, I'm mostly focused on just passing my tests.
So there's a language requirement to German citizenship?
Yeah, that you need to have B1 because they want you to be able to, talk to the cops if you need to, or make a doctor's appointment, or go grocery shopping, or open a bank account. You know what I mean? Just like they want you to be able to get around. And every single time I try to talk German to anybody, once they hear my American accent, they want to speak English to me. And I'm like, well, this really isn't helping me learn German, but apparently they're excited to get to use English.
When I visited family in Chile, it was kind of like that too. So my Spanish was terrible, but my relatives that spoke English were like, "Oh, it's nice to speak English again." They had really nice accents, though, in English, and I did not have such a nice accent in Spanish, I don't think.
Yeah, you can tell sometimes that I'm not a native European when I'm speaking German, especially when sometimes my southern twang comes out accidentally. That's always fun.
I didn't think I had much of a southern accent until I visited New York, and people were like, "Oh, I love your southern accent." I people down here don't think I have a southern accent.
Oh yeah, you went up there to play. I didn't get to hear much about that trip.
I went. This is 2015 now. This is a while. I went up there for a month. Had a great time. But I was like, man, I've gone hungry once to build a music career in a tough town. Maybe I don't want to do it again.
I get it.
But it was great. I had a good time.
Yeah, I mean, the few gigs that we got to do together, well, that was great. And Do you remember the saddest theme park in the world? Yes,
that we played?
I remember the saddest theme park in the world. The Dodgems had just burnt down.
What did we do? Like a 3-night stand there? I remember
it was in Kearney, West Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. And
it was like real near Huntington.
Yeah. It was just like one of those kind of coal slurry towns, and
which I since learned has like the highest per capita opioid addiction of anywhere in the country.
Well, yeah, there's nothing better to do than get high and fucking have kids.
I just remember being like, this is a sad place.
Yeah.
And like, these people need amusement park, and they have the saddest amusement park.
It was like the antithesis of Disneyland. It was the unhappiest place on earth.
Yeah, it's like, it's a small world in a minor key.
Remember the roller coaster of death that they tried to say was actually, I don't know, safe within any sort of OSHA standards?
Yeah. I do remember that. It was, you could like, if you held an unshaked cocktail at the beginning of it, it would have been ready to go at the end.
Yeah. It every time that it whipped around the corner. Now, see, I grew up in Cedar Point, like in Ohio, we had the Kings Island and Cedar Point and everything. And I was used to, wooden roller coasters, whipping you around the edge. That's just kind of what they do. But this one, it just didn't seem like it wanted to make that turn.
Yeah, you really felt that like you were just like one curve away from, being a name on a list on like Dateline. that night. Just another victim.
The jazz apple tour.
But that though, some danger is good for you. I think some good old fashioned, adrenaline, nearly dying is it makes you feel young or it kills you.
Well, not only do you get that from being at the park, but there was also the drive to the park. That was eventful.
I remember when we were downtown in Huntington, there was a bar. It was called the Piano Bar, and I was like, "Oh, yeah. Great! Well, piano bar, let's go. This sounds, And I remember we walked in, and I asked about the piano, and they're like, "We got rid of that years ago." Yeah. It's like, man.
It's like, oh, I guess they should probably call this there once was a piano here bar.
I was like, oh, all I need is a piano and I can make friends. And get drinks bought for me.
Yeah, that's
a piano.
It's a racket. It really is.
Yeah.
So what's your next plans for your political career?
I got to take a year and sort of, I'm in school right now, so I gotta get through some personal stuff that I want to do, so then the next opportunity to register for a local office would be actually December of this year. Mm-hmm. So I'm on the fence as far as like whether and when, and I did learn a lot about the process and things like that just doing it. The answer is that I learned what it takes, and just in a real hands-on way, and I am actively assessing what I will do next. But I don't count myself out for sure. I still think that I've got potential to make a difference, and I can't not do that if once I think that about myself. I'll be, but I will say the things I learned about the community, the people I met, and the relationships that I built are whether I go for elected office or whether I'd make change some other, they're all sources that I have now, and a level of trust in the community that from going through that process and being vetted in that kind of way, are all resources that I'll use to hopefully make some positive change. Whether that's through elected office or not, that's to be determined. But I know that I got a taste for advocacy and activism, and and I've seen what happens when I try to help, and if I choose well and I work hard, it does make a difference. And knowing that about myself, I can't quit.
But yeah, that's really why we want people like you in public service, not because you're there for your own coffers and your own name recognition, but because you understand that you can be the pipeline to change.
Yeah. And, fame is a tool. It's not a goal, it's a tool. It's dependent, and like any tool, it's what you want to do with it. Is what you should be judged on. And yeah, so I do try to get publicity for what I'm doing because it helps what I'm doing. For instance, that's why I don't play guitar. You may have seen this.
Yeah. If anybody's unfamiliar with the Andrew Fletcher I don't play guitar memes, write to Andrew. I'm sure he'll explain them.
I sell shirts now. People wanted shirts.
We have merch.
I have merch. One of the guys who bought the shirt works at the Guitar Center.
For anybody listening who might not be in on the joke, can you elaborate?
Yeah, so this is an accident. This was accidental, but I stuck to it. The local alternative newspaper here has like a best of that they do every year, right? Most towns do. It's a way for the newspaper to sell ads to people who do this. So, they throw in fun categories like musician, even though we don't buy ads.
Right.
They really want like the best dentist to buy a full page ad for the whole year, right? But they include us little people in there too. Well, a couple years ago, they created some categories: best guitar player and best drummer. However, they have bass player or piano player or a keyboardist, which I thought, if you're going to have two, maybe you should have most common ones.
Maybe.
Asheville's favorite bassoonist is probably not a category. But I thought, and many people agreed with me that there should be a keyboard and bass player category. They left us both. But you play guitar too. I don't. See, that's the difference. And so what I did is I appealed to the masses to help poke fun at this injustice. I said, vote for me as best guitar player, even though I don't play guitar. And of all the jokes I've told, this is the first one that other people wanted to tell back to me. And it just sort of took off.
Yeah.
I was walking down the street like a few months ago, and some guy points at me. He's with his girlfriend. He points at me and he says, "There goes Asheville's best guitar player." It was another person told me, they're like, this is the most Asheville thing to happen in a while. Asheville is an absurd place. We love the absurd, and I was able to tap into that by just sort of being completely honest about what I was doing. And so, yeah, I don't play guitar.
It's just brilliant. I love it. It's so good.
It made it into like the humor edition. Like the newspaper thought it was like, even though I was kind of poking fun at them, the newspaper, they write about it now too.
And so one thing leads to another. They look your name up. And they understand that you're the pipeline to maybe get something done if they need to get something done. It all works together. Yeah,
it's funny how like I never really know what I'm going to do next because it's always based on combinations of things I've done before. And sometimes it just the right combination. I can do that. But that's why you have to be if you're going to fight for change. I think that I take the tactic of like the joyful warrior with it. Like I try to have a light heart about it, even when I'm dealing with pretty heavy topics. And it helps me get through because, I don't have the emotional reserves to be as sad and as a situation like might warrant. Like I have to laugh my way through hard times.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why I have that sort of creator mentality, that I think that comes with the territory. It's why I feel comfortable being so comfortable being a musician. It also I think if you can find the humor in something, then you've really understood it at a level that you can then turn it inside out and make it a laugh. And so I definitely I definitely am a serious politician, but I try to have some very unserious moments to get people to come together on something, and also just for my own sanity, because I tell you what, looking in the face of the future sometimes is scary, and it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to see yourself there, but I try to keep it lighthearted in enough times just to keep me going and hopefully bring some others along.
I've always said that politics is show business for ugly people, but when somebody like you that actually is a rakish bastard yourself, and not only talented, but also has the ability to make people laugh, that's what people look for in a politician, because we're so used to seeing just the stuffed suits up there that we already know what kind of backroom deals have been done. But when somebody like you that can not only take care of the issues, but when they're talking, they can joke and improvise on the fly, it really shows that there is hope for the political future in America.
I hope so. I certainly need I need more people to come from similar backgrounds, working class backgrounds, to try to go for what I'm going for in their communities and in my community. And I want, I'm turning 40 in a couple of weeks, and I feel like it's really my generation's turn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Especially as we see the boomer generation retiring, and even in the U.S. House, like a lot of the leadership has transitioned to a lot younger people, and that have really seen a lot of stuff like Bernie Sanders talked about, the decline of the working class, a frozen minimum wage for 15, 16 years now or something. These are realities rather than just what the kids are complaining about. And so I'm hoping that there's a lot more people that are going to step up. I felt like I was late to the game. I'm hoping other people are very, very close behind.
Well, I think that maybe anybody that's listening to this, if they have any sort of political hopes in the future, do you think that maybe they'd be able to contact you for some advice?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, though, just like it can be really simple to get involved in your community. And almost every city has appointed boards and commissions that look at different topics. And they rarely have, in many places, they rarely have renters, working class people, or persons of color that are involved in these advisory bodies. They're typically voluntary, they're unpaid, but they're really interesting if you're interested in it. So if you want to get your feet wet in your community, look at what board and commission positions are open in your town. And, in Asheville, we have a tree commission, it helps advise on tree policy. And there's a Parks and Rec commission, and you can help advise on what programs are brought to parks. And so if you want to get your feet wet and start understanding policy and local government and how that works, there's usually a door open someplace. And you can find it if you want to make a difference. And it's made me a better person. I think it's made me a more knowledgeable person about my community. Mm-hmm. And once in a while I get to make a difference.
And if there's one thing we need, it's actual politicians who understand the community, and they didn't just move there to get elected. This would be the chance where if you have any audio plugs, go ahead and put them out there, man.
Yeah, so I'll just tell you my favorite record I've done. The stuff I'd want to share with people the most. The first is the last Firecracker Jazz Band record. It's called Return to the 20s. And I'm really proud of my work on that one. I did a lot of the arrangements and the piano playing. And I play the celeste, which is super fun. I love those things. And the other is a record I made back in 2015. You've probably heard it, Skip. This is the Hank West and the Smoking Hots. Mm-hmm. Message to the Yogi record, and we're all just a Google away. Hank West and the Smoking Hots on all your major streaming platforms. But please find us on Bandcamp.
Yes. Yeah. Anywhere that you can find music, you're going to be able to find it. And if they want to get more familiar with your political work, how would they do that?
Actually, if you just Google Andrew Fletcher Asheville, you will find me. And I'm also AndrewJFletcher.com, Andrew J. Fletcher on all social media, and my political website was FletcherForAsheville.com.
All righty, thank you so much for coming on, dude. It was great talking to you.
Oh man, it's good to see you. I was really excited that you wanted to do this, man.
It was great to talk to you, and it gave me an excuse to.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right. Godspeed. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care of yourself. All right. That'll be all for today. Remember, peace, love throughout the world, and don't forget to rock and roll.